Welcome to another episode of Nerds Drink Whiskey. We're still sipping on our Tullamore Dew. We don't want to down the whiskeys too fast because we got to do a few episodes. It's early. And it's early, whiskey breakfast. So this episode, we're going to be discussing the things that you look for in a whiskey. If you're just standing in the aisle and you're trying to pick a good whiskey, what are the things that you look for? So one of the things is I know at our local alcohol emporium, big box store, there is a clerk there, tall, skinny African-American gentleman who knows more about how to pick a good whiskey than anybody I've ever seen that works at a store. And if you can find that clerk, that store clerk that really knows what they're talking about. It's not just a lot of these, staff picks are bought and sold. They're things that are the whiskey, the distiller, the distributor paid to have a staff say this was their staff pick. But this particular clerk that we're talking about, and if you go to the big box distilled beverage store in Olympia, you know who I'm talking about. This guy knows his stuff. He's really great. So always find that clerk that just knows their stuff.
You have convinced me to go to a big box store to buy my liquor now. You're going to get me shopping at Walmart next.
Never go full Walmart. So the other thing is do a quick Google. And if that whiskey brand does not have Google results, if they don't have a website, if they don't have a Facebook page, a Twitter account, something, that could be what's known as what we call a fake whiskey brand. Something that's probably distilled in Indiana, and then all they do is age it, and then put their own label on it. So it's a private label, and you don't want to drink those whiskeys. They're bad. So those are my two pieces of advice. What do you say, Christian? What do you look for?
Well, if I'm not just throwing a party or trying to get basic staples for the bar, when I'm looking specifically for a whiskey, what I look for is I like local. I like to make sure that things are distilled and bottled locally. Washington State right now has a plethora of great distilleries that have just opened up in the last 10 years since they weren't allowed to do that before.
Yeah.
And these former moonshiners have come out with several really, really good whiskeys. So I haven't tried them all. I'm kind of on a mission to do that right now. The price point is generally mid-range and not too high, and it's good.
Yep.
So
hold on. Just a quick shout out to our friends at Sandstone Distillery in Tenino and Heritage Distillery. Heritage. We love you.
I can agree with that, honestly. Sandstone and Heritage, we love you both. You guys are just unequaled in the liquor market right now. You guys are the bomb. But for me, I'd probably say my two things is, well, number one, usually I look at the color. It's something that's a little too light, something that's a little too dark. There's going to be some artificial flavors or colors in there. That's going to throw something off. And that's just me. I agree with Christian on the local thing. That's a really good idea because there is a lot of local distillers that are coming out of the Pacific Northwest. So that's very, very nice. But the other thing that I look at, honestly, is I try and look at the age. I try and sit there. If it's a no-age statement, it's kind of a gamble, but, it's workable. But if you find something that actually has a listing of the age, whether you do a Google search or it's listed on the bottle, it's probably going to be a little bit better if it's aged longer like that. And I've never really been wrong on that so far. So
that's actually a trick about that. When I do come across something that I get and I don't particularly love it because doesn't have the age flavor to it that I like, I have a little, mini oak barrel keg, and I just keep it in there for a couple of days, and that usually makes it taste a lot better.
You should tell
We just did an episode where we stuck some sandstone in a mini cask for 3 weeks, and very interesting results. Go back and look at that episode, but it's we found that it was a completely different product. You put a whiskey in a mini cask for 3 weeks, you get a completely different product. So
and you lose half your whiskey.
And you lose half your whiskey to the angel share. What is with those angels, man? They party. They're getting all messed up. Those angels. That angel share is big.
They live a life of service. They're allowed to have a drink every once in a while.
Yeah. So in closing, I think we're gonna have to end each episode this month finding out everything that this man is doing.
What else is Christian Doyle doing?
Take all this episodes to do it.
Yeah. He's very busy. This is Christian Doyle. If you don't recognize him from Journey Quest, what is it? The Gamers series.
Masters of the Metaverse, Death from Above, Attacking the Darkness, Dark Dungeons. It goes on and on.
Now I've told you the one thing that you've done that I could not bring myself to watch because it brought back too many childhood nightmares. Take a guess. The scariest thing you've ever done.
The scariest thing we've ever done. What was it?
Attacking the Darkness, man. That thing was. I was getting twitchy watching that. I'm like, he's just a little bit too close to real life on this, you know.
That was the beauty part about that. Attacking the Darkness is actually it's a mockumentary. It's not a real documentary, but it hits close to home to a lot of people, especially people who grew up in the 80s around Dungeons and Dragons, or who grew up in like a large mega church situation and had to break themselves away from it. It really hits on both of those, and just it's pretty on the nose as far as satire goes, and a lot of people have not been 100% sure that it's just not reality.
So now Strowlers is about to. Strowlers just got funded. Now I saw a post that they're looking at doing the next Kickstarter for Journey Quest season 4. Is it?
Yeah, season 4. We are very excited. We've only got 2 seasons of it left, so as soon as we get 4 and 5 in the can, Journey Quest is done, and it's time to make 4 before we all get too old for it. Honestly, we've been doing it for 10 years, so it's
Now 3.5 is funded. When does that go into production?
It's already in production. We filmed it. It's in the can. It's getting cut up and getting ready to be released to all the Patreon backers. And then, of course, after that, we put all of the 3.5 scenes into seasons 4 and 5 because that's where they go. There are scenes that we would have had to cut otherwise. So we get a lot more orcs and a lot of the things that are a little bit too expensive to do a lot of in Journey Quest. That's what 3.5 was all about. Tying up a lot of loose ends with storylines and characters that we maybe hadn't seen in a little while, trying to catch up with them and figure out where they are. We get to we get to follow Yart and Grelnock, the 2 orc stooges, and I hate calling them stooges because they're 2 of my favorite characters. We get to see Karn again, the Karn the Unpleasant, played by Bob Sapp, all 6 foot million, 300 million pounds of him. He's so big, I can't even his hand.
And we get to see the continuation of the heartbreaking love story between the orc and his.
No, that's one of my favorite parts of Journey Quest is that love story between the orc and the bard. They become much more central main characters in the last 2 seasons because that story is so powerful. It's such a big part of the overall arc. I'm really excited to see where it goes.
And so when can we start seeing so we're not seeing actual 3.5 episodes?
If you were a backer of 3.5, they're not episodes so much as scenes that were cut. So you'll get to see those scenes, but you won't get any context for them until seasons 4 and 5 come out.
Okay.
So
All right, cool. Well, check back next week for another episode of Nerds Drink Whiskey. We're going to be sampling another whiskey and finding out more about all the things this guy is doing. Christian Doyle, he's so I think we're going to find out more about Perf, and so see you next week. Nerds Drink Whiskey.